crazy, but I didn't know he would.
How did it run after that, Cat?
It helped it. It didn't spin as much coming off the turn.
Welcome to another high-octane episode of Southern Dirt Motorsports.
We would like to share with you that is one of my favorite cars in Roy's stable of cars. It was driven by Raymond Stiles. It was wrenched by Junior Miller. Junior did all the engine building, the car building, and Raymond was a good driver. Junior was an excellent mechanic. This is one of the few cars that if it got in front of the Skeeter that we showed you earlier in this cast, he could stay there. And it was one of the few cars that could pretty much compete with that Skeeter. Not many of them could, but this one car could do it. There was 2 or 3 others that could, but this was an outstanding car. And Raymond made this car famous. He drove it at the fairgrounds some down there, even on the half-mile track it was at the time. It did pretty good for what he had with it down there. But on the local dirt tracks, he was a hard guy to handle. The car ran good, handled good, and I will share this to you, and then I'll let Roy and Gary tell you some stories about this car. Junior Miller, before he passed away, Roy had this car at a car show where Ed Rogers' Chevrolet car lot in McMillan used to be. I don't remember who owns it right now. But anyway, they brought Junior out there to look at the car. They let him know that Roy had restored it. I had the honor of getting to build a motor that was in it. We used a camshaft in it that was used back in the day. And it's got the headers, the sound. If he starts this car, it'll sound just like it did the night that he was getting ready to go on the racetrack for the last time. And the thing that made me feel really good, made me really proud to be with Junior, was he put his arm on my shoulder and says, "Randy, you've got it sounding right. I think it's ready to go tonight." That made me feel really, really good. And coming from Junior, it must have been right. So with that, Roy, tell us about finding the car, what you had to do to get it like it is. And I do know that Roy has pictures of this car, the right color, when it was in its heyday. So it's as near like the car was the last time it was raced as any of us I've ever seen. So, Roy.
Again, mentioned Larry Ashford. Larry, I don't know when he got the car, but I tried for years and years and years, even back before I started restoring these cars, I tried to get my hands on this car. This car here was holy grail to me. But Larry wouldn't turn loose at it. So finally, after he didn't have any more to give me to go look at, he finally made the decision, it's time to let it go. So this car has just got so much history about it. It was outlawed at McMillan Racetrack. Raymond didn't get to run it for several years. He come back, was the first night they let him come back in a open competition racing and just dusted the field on everybody. And this car is just so unique. It was so much ahead of its time. And Randall talked about the color. Well, there was all kinds of colors. Some people said it was Iridium blue, and they said this. And when we finally found it, the seat in the car is a 20-gallon grease barrel. And when I took the seat out, there was a color. It was underneath the seat on the barrel. And took it to the paint shop, and the guy looked and he said, "I really believe that's a Ford blue." And where it's the exact color Raymond and all of them run or not, I don't really know. But the guy did a super good job with the pictures that we got. It matches pretty good. And all these cars are just so hard to drive because the clutch is on the left, but the brake is on the right, and the gas feed's in the middle. And Randall assured me after he once got them on the racetrack, got them in high gear, they wouldn't need any trouble to drive. But trying to put them on and off trailers, it's become a chore for me to learn how to drive these things. I don't have ever drove them back in the day. And, but I'm gonna let Gary tell you the history about this car.
This car, actually they've been rebuilt, of course, over and over. But we had a sale at Nashville at the end of the year, and it was probably a bankruptcy sale or something. Anyway, the guy owned them. They owned 3 cars. He had, this was a 709, and then they had a 707, which was a Plymouth body. And then they had I think it was 32, which was a 32 Ford. And all of them was the same color, and you can see the cars on Nashville Area Racing History there in the pit. The guy owned all 3 of them, and all 3 of them looked just alike. And I think Crash Bond had drove the other coupe farm, and then Griggs had drove the 709, and I don't remember who drove the 707. But anyway, it was in the fall, late fall of the year, and they had that sale going on down there. So my dad left out that morning. He carried the trailer with him. He said, "We'll go down there and try to buy one of those cars." At the end of the year, we'd always try to buy. When they blow the motor or something, we'd try to buy somebody out. That way we'd have extra wheels and tires and stuff to operate on. That's the way we operated, to try to get by another year with. So he went down there, and at this sale, these cars had all had Pontiac motors in them. And they had blowed the motors, and they had piled up there, they tore them apart. They was of course blowed stuff. But anyway, he said that's the only sale they've been to. They just lined them all up there, and they bid off all the junk, wheels, tires, and spare parts, and cars and all, one bid. And he bought them. And so they loaded up. They was right close to Stein Lift there, and he was going to have it on Saturday. So they wound up, I think, Binkley and some of the John Ledbetter and Art Hayes, some of that bunch, they wound up helping him load the crankshafts up. And he carried them on Steiner Lift. They come back and got a load of the blocks that was busted, carried them over there. And they stayed open until he got back over. That way we got rid of 2 loads there. And then on Sunday, he told me, he said, "You gotta go down there with me." He said, "We got a bunch of stuff to load and bring back." He brought one of the cars back. He brought the 707, which was the Plymouth car, back. And that evening, by the time he got home, there was somebody there going to buy it. And the Luna Brothers Sparta bought it. It was BK and his brothers, hoping them come down, and they bought it. And said they'd be back on Monday to get it. Well, on Sunday, we went down then, and we brought back, we brought back the other coupe, the 32. And I loaded all they had rods and pistons, aluminum rods and aluminum pistons and aluminum flywheels, and it was piled up out behind the building. And I loaded all that stuff up, all we get on the truck. We loaded the car on the trailer, so full inside of it, full wheels and tires, and where the motor's at, we stood wheels and tires up in there, brought it in, and I think it wound up going to Sparta to, there was a Texaco place up there, I believe, where I carried it to. Anyway, we carried it up there. It sold. Well, on Monday, when he got on work with us at school, when he got on work, he headed on down there, he had the trailer with him, and he loaded, which would have been this car, would have been the 709 car. And he loaded it and brought it back, and whenever I got in, and it was about 35, 40 minutes before he got there, Ed Rogers and Raymond come, and we sat there and talked. I said, "He'll be here directly." He come in with the thing on the trailer, and they bought it right there, and they said, "We'll have to go get a trailer." And he said, "No, you won't, I ain't unloaded it yet." Said, so we just turned around, carried it right back to town, and carried it over to Spring Street Motors and unloaded it for him right there. And that's where they come up with the car at. Now, later on, I'm sure they'd wrecked it. I know they'd changed frames under it, and they changed this and that, whatever about it. But now Junior always took care of it for him, so I'm sure he's the one that actually done all that. And it was a nice car. Now all 3 of them were nice cars. And I think that's the reason we didn't keep none of them, because they're too nice for us. But we sold them, and then the parts and stuff we used, traded on stuff like that, but that's how they wound up with this car up here. But it was a super nice car. One of the things too, Gary, that made this car super fast and super strong is the frame side rails on it are a 55 Chevrolet frame side rails turned backwards. And that they're super soft and super light.
And they're boxed.
And they're boxed, and they'll take a heck of a lick. And that made this car a lot of what it is. It was real rigid. The suspension done the work. It was a super fast car.
The first time I laid eyes on this car after it quit racing, it was down there on Spring Street, and we were just getting into racing, my brother was, and it had a split housing rear end under it. Somebody took the quick change out and put a split housing under it. It had a safety hub on it. And I really don't even remember who my brother contacted, bought it from, but we went down there on Spring Street and rode split housing out and took the safety hub off it. That's probably about 1971, 2, somewhere along in there. I really don't know. But like I said,
Well, I know the car was running up through 1967. It was running at McMillan, and then '68 is when they went to Niceville and
Right.
went down there. And so in '69 is about when everybody started going.
It was over.
It was over. It went to the full fenders and all that, and to the later model, 55 Chevrolet
Right.
stuff. So that it was raced up till.
It was raced in 1968, but I don't know if it was raced anywhere after that, because like I say, about everything in '69 went to full fender
Yeah.
cars then, but it was raced in
In
1968.
'68, they run at Winchester, and they run down there in '68.
The reason I do know that, we had a nice crash down there one night, and he was one of the few that run out in the infield and avoided that crash. So I know he was running in 1968, at least on the July 4th weekend of that year. So it was still running back then.
Randall related to the fairgrounds. This was probably about 1965 or 6. It's sitting on the fairgrounds. That's when they'd already bought it, turned it for the 202 car. And in the background, you can see like a 65 or 6 Ford truck. So we're pretty sure that's when this picture was made. Because they really quit running the coupes and sedans in 64 at the fairgrounds. They had open competition racing.
They run open competition, what they do.
But as far as they went to the full fenders, because Coco and all of them was driving like 62 Chevrolets and stuff like that.
And Charlie Bankley and them was running 55 Chevrolet.
Right.
So they went, it run at Winchester in '68, and then they, somewhere along the last of '68 when everything was pretty well, that wound the coops and stuff.
Right. And here's the picture of the car when I brought it home.
Now let me tell you something funny happened about this car. How come we got it, really, to tell you the truth about it. Larry Ashford always wanted this car, and he got it.
We're going to tell the funny story.
And he called me and told me, he said, every time he gets something, he called me and told me, I got this, said, I've always wanted this car. And he went and bought an old Ford sedan and he's going to put everything back like it's
Put a
supposed to be.
flathead back in.
Put a flathead back in, he's going to put it back like it's supposed to be, the transmission and everything. And he said, I was come up here and look at this. He said, I've done, when he had it, it's laying upside down out there, and he's been doing some welding on it. So, me and a buddy of mine across the mountain, we stopped up there. Larry's telling me about it, I said, I'm gonna put it back like it's supposed to be. So I want it back with a flathead in it, and I want this, that. I said, Larry, you got one problem with that. He said, what's that? And I said, this is a Chevrolet, this ain't Ford. And he said, I said, they never been a Ford. Oh, I know that car all my life. I know that's bound to be a Ford. And I said, it's Chevrolet. It's always been Chevrolet.
The deal is, from here down, it's 34 Ford. From here back, 33 Chevrolet.
And I don't believe he ever touched the car. I think we hurt his feelings and he didn't touch it more after that. He let Roy have it then.
Let me tell you a little bit who Roy Ashford is, or Larry Ashford rather. He owns, I guess, a private salvage yard, I'll say, outside of McMillan on Highway 8. and he's collected a lot of parts over the years, and he's become sort of a go-to guy for vintage stuff, and that's why you'll hear his name mentioned quite a lot. So that's who we're talking about when you hear that. I'm proud I finally let everybody know who Roy is. He mentioned Roy.
I had to mention Larry because he's a cousin to my wife Tammy. So I had to mention Larry.
Yes.
He is his family.
Okay,
But, you know, this car here is just, to me, it's the holy grail. It may, if it don't ever hit another lick, it can sit right here. Okay. It's just, you know, when you read the newspaper articles about Raymond Stiles, and they borrowed him from Mac Mimble, wouldn't let him race out there. He went to Winchester, just wore Winchester out over there. And then 2 years or so later, they let him come back, open competition, and he done the same thing again. So that tells you what kind of motor, what kind of car they had.
this was one of the most memorable cars in this era that I remember. Raymond was a great guy. He was just you had to like Raymond. He was just a great guy. He usually drove in a vest. And
I should have brought the vest. I've got the vest.
And sometimes he even used wingtip shoes to drive in. So he was a gentleman racer.
He was a gentleman driver.
And he was a gentleman driver. He knew nothing about the mechanics of a car. That's why I don't think he was ever afraid of them. He didn't realize what could fall off of them like some of the rest of them did, so he was never afraid at any point. So, but he was a real gentleman. He was a good guy, and he later became a really good motorcycle rider after he stopped racing these. And he's a guy I loved and admired throughout my life and career.
He run, I've seen him run for years. And he was good. He didn't tear the car up. He took care of the car. And if he was ever wrecked, he didn't mean to. He was just
he was smooth.
He was smooth. He made some of the smoothest laps you ever seen.
He made consistent laps. He could hit the same spot on the track every lap after lap after lap. He was just I think you could have put him in a NASCAR and he could have done the same thing.
You know, and I didn't realize till Mike and Steve and y'all had started this podcast deal that I've got every one of these cars raced at the VFW track at Mac Mimble. That's the history of these cars. You know, the track was closed down in '68, but you know, I can honestly say each one of these cars turned a lap at VFW track. Now they raced everywhere else, but you know, and I never thought that I would have a collection like this. When it started, it was just something to keep me busy, keep my brain working, and you know, and how do you put money value? To me, it's all sentimental.
It means something to a lot of us. You know, you go through life and you do things like this, and then it's just another chapter that was back in your life. But through the podcast and people like Roy, this has been resurrected, and it's letting some people that's interested know really there was a lot of hard work, sacrifices made. Some people lost their life in these things. Safety equipment was almost unheard of in the day of these cars. You would learn to get safer if somebody got hurt. If they got hurt in a certain way, you tried to think of some way so it didn't happen to you. And that's how a lot of the safety devices evolved over the years. But these old cars here, they're the thing that made racing what racing is today. They was a big contributor. They was a big start of all of it.
They're the real thing.
They are the real thing. And I hope you folks have enjoyed sharing these cars with you today. And I want to thank Roy Freeze for allowing us at his place to do this and sharing the cars with us. I want to thank Tommy Guy for coming out and helping do the photography, my wife Doris, and Roy's wife Tammy, and my old buddy Lorance here. I can always count on Gary Gary's dad was my hero. And
Amen.
I want to again thank Gary for being here.
If you want to know how much these cars meant to these race car drivers and to the mechanics that did them, you should have been at Ed Rogers the day that Monty brought Junior Miller down there to see this car put back and to listen to him and Lee Earl talk about the old races. It brought tears to Junior Miller's eyes. They mean so much to so many people. And that's one reason that Roy got into doing this, was to preserve the history of the short track racing around here.
I've actually seen some guys hear this car run that it did bring tears to the eyes, and it wasn't the exhaust fumes. It was the emotions that they had out of hearing the car actually run and sound like it did the day they heard it drive out on the racetrack for the last time. And I'll say this for all you folks out there that are watching this. If you liked what you saw today, get in touch with us. Let us know you like it. If you'd like to have a podcast maybe on some of the innovations that these cars had, let us know that, and we could do a podcast on something like that. You folks let us know what you like about this, what you would like to see. We'll try our best to do it for you. And thank you for watching.